Hey, what's going on? Brian Bowman here. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great week. And today I want to talk about the big payoff. Um, it's Q4. Sales are going crazy. Hopefully you're having an incredible Q4, and that's all good. But what's the big payoff? And I want to talk about what the big payoff is and things that you need to be doing now to maximize that payoff. And I think if you work out, you can really relate to this. I know for me, I'm not training as much jujitsu as I used to. I'm still going to a personal trainer, which by the way has been one of the best investments I've ever made. It's like 8x the cost of just having, a gym membership, but I assure you, it's actually getting results. So there's a tip. There's something about making a big investment in somebody that actually wants to see you win. So that's been huge. But when I was training a lot of jujitsu, if you don't know what jujitsu is, it's like wrestling, like grappling, and takes a ton of energy. It's an amazing workout. And all of us who train jujitsu, we love to roll. That's the thing. Like we roll and we're so excited. And that's what you think you're going for, right? Like that's kind of the payoff is we're going to go train, we're going to learn technique, and we're going to roll. But one of the things that I got addicted to, and you could probably relate to this if you work out even, or if you train jujitsu, for sure, you know what I'm saying, is after the workout. There was this sense of accomplishment. And even though I only got incrementally better, maybe not even better at all, because it's just one session, there was this sense of accomplishment of I did it. And there was also this friendship that built because all of us come together. If you've ever been in a team sport, right? At the end of the practice, you guys, you talk some trash to each other, you hang out, you sort of reminisce on the practice, what you did. And that really is the sort of the hidden payoff of that hard workout. And I was always surprised because every time I'd be excited about going and training, but more and more as I trained over the years, I started to really love what would happen after the training. And in a lot of ways, Q4 right now for e-commerce sellers, for all sellers, but especially e-commerce sellers, I'm going to talk exactly why, and I want to give you some actionable steps, as always, that you can start applying in your business. But Q4 is like the wrestling, right? It's the grappling, it's the fight. I mean, literally, like, there's people literally fighting to get products. And we're fighting as sellers, right? To put these products out there, get it in front of people, outbid our competition, all this other stuff. And that's really like the event. But the payoff is really after that event, after the workout, and it's Q1. That's where there's two major things that are going to happen. Okay. So let's dive right in and talk about the point of, today and what I'm trying to share today. There's two things that you're going to maximize in Q1. It's the bond with your customers, and I don't want to lose you here because there's very actionable things I want to talk about, but it's the bond with your customers that you now have earned the right to talk to, right? To develop a bond with. They have bought your product. They have trusted you enough with their money. They've pulled out their money, made a purchase, and invested in you as a brand and your product. Now you get to do something with that. But time is critical, right? Like anything else, there's a shelf life to it. So there's a bond for you to now create and nurture. And let's face it, there's profitability now. So many business models. Listen, we work with tons of different clients. And one of the biggest mindset shifts to growth, to having the mindset for growth in business at all, but definitely in e-commerce, because there's a cost associated with the physical product, right? The biggest mindset or the biggest hurdle to shift is that a lot of times we're going to almost get customers at a loss, if not break even. If we can get customers at break even, that's like an ATM machine, because now on the back end, if you have systems in place, and this is what we do in Ecom Intensive, this is a big part of our process, isn't just tricks, it's actually building out a system. Now you're able to leverage all these other things after the purchase, the bond and the profit. So now is such an amazing time, right? Because you got all these new customers, you've brought them in, the environment is bringing them in. People are, we're all sort of trained to buy right now. It's a buying frenzy. And that's amazing because now you got all these new people that you can communicate with, and you can build that bond and build that profitability. So let's talk about how we do that and some actionable things that you can actually start implementing now, because now's the time to start planting that seed and getting your ducks in a row for Q1 to be huge. While everyone else is worrying about refunds, returns, buyer's remorse, basically, and I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I talk to a lot of people who they build up a list, they get customers, and the list just dies, right? It just, the lines of communication end. And like I said, there's a shelf life to building this bond, to the window of opportunity. And once that window closes, it's really hard to open it back up. So there's this window of opportunity to build this bond, and there's this window of opportunity to maximize this profit. So let's talk about the bond first, because while we're all interested in the profit, the more that we build that bond, the more profitable the relationship will be, both in terms of fulfillment and in terms of actual, dollars being exchanged. So one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I would encourage you to just write on the wall and try to practice as much as possible, is doing things that don't scale. I talk about Paul Graham's essay that was intended for SaaS companies, but it applies to any business. So I want you to start thinking, and I've talked a lot about this on the podcast, on the Marketing for E-commerce podcast, so you can check that out. But the biggest thing is do things that don't scale. What does that mean? It means randomly in a block of your day, it means getting all customer phone numbers and taking a block of numbers and just making phone calls and thanking people. That does not scale, right? I mean, if you have 100,000 customers, you can't sit there and call every one. But if you had 100 that came in right now, then take some time, call 10 of them. I promise you, it's one of those things that it's a really small act, but it has massive ramifications, not just with that connection with that person, but for your connection with your business, for your understanding of your customer, and yes, for building a actual bond with that person. And that could be, you can text, you can email, whatever, but there's something powerful about the phone. I feel like as we've gotten more dependent on technology and all the amazing things we can do and automate and all those other things, there's been this loss of connection with being on the phone. I get on the phone every day with people, and it's a different type of relationship and connection that's made. So as much as possible, get on that phone. And I know it's a little uncomfortable. Get over it and do it. I promise you there's massive benefit on the other end of it. Start systematizing and automating your follow-up. So we talk about kind of things that don't scale. Well, there's a lot of things that do scale. So this goes back now to what you probably have on a to-do list, right? You got this long to-do list. We're gonna build out our automation campaigns and our email sequences, and we're gonna do broadcasts. Well, now's the time to start doing that. What does the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 touch points, emails, ads, texts, content you put out, what does that look like with that new customer that just dropped on your lap, right? They came in. What does that relationship look like now? Now's the time to block time in your day, every day, to start building out that sequence. You can automate this stuff in your email autoresponder, right? So now's the time. Every day, just write one email. Just start building it up little by little. Before you know it, you're going to have a nice 10 email, 12 email nurture sequence that's going to start, that's going to take what you have and it's going to start to develop it, that relationship. Content. You hear about people producing content, creating content, putting content out there, blogs, pre-sale engagement articles, video, podcasts. I've been talking about e-commerce sellers doing podcasts forever. And I'll tell you, everyone who has followed my advice on this has thanked me later on. They've fought me on it at first because nobody wants to get it set up, especially if it's video, like a video podcast where we take the audio. Nobody wants to do it, but every time they do, they always are like, it's amazing. I'm learning so much about my customer. I'm getting feedback, blah, blah, blah. It's incredible. So I'm going to keep talking about it. And maybe at one point you'll actually give it a shot because it's a great way to connect with your audience. The other thing is what kind of community are you building? I talk a lot about using Facebook groups in tandem with your e-commerce brand. A lot of our intensive clients are doing it. So students in our intensive program have built massive communities. And then as others, we have almost 100 brand owners and CEOs in our program. As others see the success that people are having building those communities, they're like hopping on the bandwagon. They're like, okay, yeah, we want to do that. And it's been really cool to see everyone, feed off each other and build up these groups. So these are all ways that you can start building that bond. And like I said, it has a shelf life. So you have to make sure that you don't put this off till February. This is stuff that you got to find time now. Just block out small parts of your day in your calendar to dedicate to this and get it ready so that in Q1, you start kicking this thing off. And a lot of it's automated. Some of it's not. Some of it's, things that don't scale. And other things are just getting your buyers together in a community to be able to interact with each other and start the conversation. A lot of things you can do here. One of the things that people kind of miss is that doing this It minimizes returns, which is a huge issue. While everyone else is dealing with returns and buyer's remorse and people being like, I don't want this. And there's always going to be an element of that in Q1, right? There's a buying frenzy. So returns are a percentage of the amount of sales. So that's going to happen. But you can minimize that by having follow-up right away after purchase. And that's why, again, in our programs, like we right away have a post-purchase sequence that builds anticipation, and it tries to combat or get in the way of buyer's remorse before it ever happens, right? To start getting people actually interested in the product even more before it even arrives. Okay, so that's the bond side. So let's talk about the profit side. It's probably the side you're like, all right, that's great. We got friends now. That's awesome. But how do we monetize that relationship? And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I want you to get comfortable with that. That's okay. You have something that people need. They're willing to exchange money, which they see as less valuable than the thing that you have. When I had that mindset shift, and this is kind of an aside, but a very, very, very important aside. When I started separating value from price, it was a game changer. Everything shifted for me. All of a sudden, I understood my job as a marketer and as a business person is to understand my customer enough and my prospect so that I can make the value so high that it dwarfs the price. Okay, I'm going to say that again because that statement, it was like, boom, paradigm shift for me. My job is to make the value so high of my product, of my offer, of what I have for them. And this is going to tap into not just the quality of the product, but the reasons why the person wants the product, who wants that product and why. Make the value so high, it dwarfs the price, right? I always ask this question, is $600 a lot for a pair of shoes? Or is $200,000 a lot for a house? Is $400,000 a lot for a house? Well, it all depends. And it all depends not only on the actual product, but how you position the product. And this isn't about manipulation. It's truly about understanding why people want the thing. And you're able to raise value, dwarf price, and now it becomes a no-brainer because the money in my wallet, which I don't have on me here, the money in my wallet is worth less to me than the thing you have. And that's the beauty about this exchange. It's actually amazing. It's a win-win for everyone. So how do we maximize profitability? There's a shelf life on this. If you wait till February, you're going to lose out on a lot of money. Okay. So you want to be doing this stuff. The core of your back-end profitability is going to be cross-selling. You can make some money with a product, but you are going to make a lot more money and your business is going to do a lot better if you have products on the back end now, because a lot of your effort, if you look at, if I look at the brands that I've worked with that have been the most successful, there's some front-end product or a handful of products that are the acquisition vehicles. They're the thing that bring customers in. It's the sexy thing that everyone wants and they go after and they buy this thing. And then on the back end, and usually you don't make much money on there. If you're selling on a marketplace, you can, but man, is that a double-edged sword because you have no customer data, no email, no address, no anything. You have no customer. Dan Kennedy said, a business without a mailing list is not a business. And actually, I just read another quote by somebody else who basically was the same. It was like Mark Cuban or something. It basically was basically the same thing. So yeah, you don't have to pay as much of an acquisition, which that's changing as well because marketplaces are turning into more of pay to play, business models. So if I got to pay anyway, I want a customer that I can follow up with. And that's like the crux of our program of like what we do is getting you those customers. So now you got to follow up. You have to cross sell because on the back end is where you're making your profit. You're not paying advertising costs. You're not paying acquisition cost anymore. And we know, thanks to our good friend Jay Abraham, that your best prospects in the world, in your business, are your customers. Those are the best prospects. Everyone else, when the customer comes in, they're like, all right, I'm done. We sold our thing. Where do we get the new one? And I've seen businesses that have built massive businesses just on front-end customer acquisition. But I can tell you they're literally missing out on all the profit in their business by not following up. And you may have heard this before. Hearing it's great. Taking action is a totally different thing. That's what actually puts money in your pocket and allows you to scale up your business. So how do you do your cross sells? It's all about timely follow-up. You got to get on top of this, okay? So emails, you do not want to be firing off one-off emails to follow up with customers. You have to have that automated, okay? That's got to be automated. Now, you can still do things that don't scale, but really when it comes to back-end optimization on profitability, you want to have this stuff automated. There has to be a series of emails that go out. We have a 12 email series that goes out in the first 16 days or like 18 days. And it's systematically built out to maximize the bond and maximize profitability. Okay. So you have to have that in place. That's step one. Then you can bolster it by having ads that run to your customers and cross-sell and nurture the relationship. Then obviously any other channels you have, text, email, whatever you've got, you want to leverage. And it all comes down to cross-selling. If you don't have offers, find congruent offers. Okay. Find offers that you can offer to them, to your customers, to your existing customers. We're not talking about your full list. There's broadcasts you're going to do that you're going to mass email your whole list. That's great. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about all these Q4 buyers. How are we bridging them into Q1 and actually still profiting while everyone else is essentially like in the red on Q1? How are you actually still profiting and still scaling through Q1? Bottom line, it comes down to these cross sells and doing it in a timely manner so that way, it doesn't sit on the shelf because, our attention spans are really, really short. I probably have one of the shortest attention spans. I'm like the classic like squirrel. Like I see something else, I'm distracted. So if you're gonna get me to buy something else, man, you got to follow up with me right away, or else I'm on to the next thing and giving someone else my money. So there you have it. So that's the big payoff. Okay, Q1 is the big payoff. That's the reason for Q4 is to get all those customers in the door and now start building that bond. Start maximizing profitability. So now you form a virtuous cycle, because once you have these assets in place, this bond building system and this profit building system on the back of your of those purchases, right? Because you're leveraging these 4 pillars. You're getting more leads, you're increasing conversion rates. Now you're increasing average order value, but the 4th pillar, maximizing lifetime value, that's what this system is doing. Now you have a virtuous cycle. You make more money, which allows you to pour more into acquisition. You get more acquisition, more customers, more people through the system, more profit, more acquisition, more customers, more profit, more. And this thing this is your flywheel, right? And now this thing forms a virtuous cycle. And that's how your company starts to grow. And that's how it goes from flat to a linear growth to boom, hockey stick, right? We're looking for that exponential growth in our business. So go apply it and crush the rest of your Q4 and get ready for Q1 while everyone else is like, what's going on? I want Q4 back. You'll be actually scaling up your business and getting ready for a powerful Q2, which nobody talks about. We got to talk more about Q2. All right. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. Have an incredible holiday, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye.